and welcome to Grounds for Peace, a Faith Unfiltered podcast series grounded in faith, community, and courage, where we explore what it looks like to follow Jesus, the peaceful one, and engage in vital conversations that take a hard and hopeful look at peacemaking in today's world. I'm Blake Smith, and I'm your host for this episode of Grounds for Peace. And my guest today is a great friend of mine and a colleague now, which is exciting for me to be able to say. And that's Joelle Wight. Joelle is a member of the Council of Presidents of 70, and she is also directing the 2026 Peace Forum that's coming up here in October. Welcome, Joelle.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here today.
Well, it's great to have you and to get a chance to promote the Peace Forum that's coming up. Before we get into the details, speaking of forum, I have a question that comes up every once in a while as I travel around the church. And that is, for a long time, we did a peace colloquy. I think starting in 1993, we did a peace colloquy, we had a break, and now we're coming back with a peace event, and it's called the Peace Forum. What's the difference?
So I get that question all the time too, and it's a really good question. And my first response is that forum is easier to say than colloquy. So that is an important part of it. But also a peace colloquy, a colloquy literally means conversation. So when we have peace colloquies, it's a peace conversation. And of course, that's an essential part of what we do when we gather for this type of event. But it isn't all we do. We have worships and we have meals that we share together and we have opportunities to take action. And so the new name, Peace Forum, was approved by the World Church Leadership Council and is meant to kind of encompass the whole of our event. So the event will be very similar to the peace colloquies that we've had in the past, but with an intentional focus on some additional elements and opportunities.
Awesome. Well, it's funny. I actually answered the question the way you did. Said, well, forums, I don't know, forum's easier. People know what a forum is. They don't know what a colloquy is. And it sounds but it does sound fancy anyway. So, like I mentioned, the colloquy itself started in 1993. Can you give us a little background about kind of the evolution and how we came about doing this with the International Peace Award and that?
Yeah, I'll do my best. There are a lot of people that are way more qualified to speak to this than I am because they were around when it was starting. But I've actually considered myself really lucky because when I took on directing this event, I had the opportunity to kind of do some of that digging and learn more about the origins of Peace Colloquy. So Andrew Bolton, who directed for many years, has actually compiled a helpful history to kind of speak to some of the Peace Award recipients that he was able to engage with and also speak to the history of the event itself. And so that has been a really helpful resource for me. And from that, I learned that before 1993, before we ever had a peace colloquy, Dr. Edmund Glaser and his wife, Charlene, were responsible for a couple of peace events that happened in the first one, I believe, was in Kirtland, Ohio. And then there was another one in Washington, D.C. And kind of in that vein, in that spirit, Dr. Barbara Higdon, when she became the director of the peace and justice stuff at the temple, was the first to direct the 1993 peace colloquy that happened in Independence, Missouri. And since that time, there have been 22 peace colloquies that have been held in Independence, Missouri. And in addition to that, there have been numerous other colloquies that have been held in local jurisdictions around the world. And so it kind of almost took on a life of its own because we realized how important these conversations were and how necessary it was for us to uphold those who were working really diligently as peacemakers in the world. And so, a lot of people are wondering, we held them for a really long time. It was an annual thing. We looked forward to it every fall, and then we were no longer able to do them because of budgetary and staff stuff. So why now? Why are we bringing it back now? And I think that that's because, I don't think I was alone in my great disappointment when peace colloquies could no longer be held. I think that that was a widely shared sentiment throughout the church. And the first presidency recognized the importance of these events, and they decided to include them in this new 3-year cycle of gathering. So we begin the cycle at World's Conference, which of course we did last summer. And then the year following, which of course in this case is 2026, will be for Peace Forum. And the final year of that 3-year cycle, we will gather for International Youth Forum, or IYF. So look forward to that next summer, summer 2027. We'll be back together for IYF. So this isn't going to be an annual event moving forward, but it is part of an annual rhythm. And when this year's forum draws to a close on October 18th, 2026, we can already be looking forward with anticipation to the one that will happen in 2029.
Are they going to announce in 2026 what's coming in 2029?
I do not believe so. And as the chair of the World Church Peace and Justice team, I hope not, because that would only give us a couple of months to make that decision. So I'm going to say no.
Say no. All right. Well, I know that there's some people who may ask that question. So
Yeah.
I think this is wonderful. We're going to talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the awards, the International Peace Award, the Human Rights Award that will be shared at the Peace Forum this year. But I think that even during the interim period, and correct me if I'm wrong, during the interim period between the Peace Colloquy and the newly established Peace Forum, we were still giving the International Peace Award. Maybe, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was regularly or if it's happened just a couple of times.
Yeah, so it wasn't happening on an annual basis. And actually, even when we were having peace colloquies every single year, there was not always a peace award awarded at those events. Sometimes it would be awarded at World Conference or another similar setting. But since the last Peace Forum, which was in 2014, the last Peace Colloquy, which was in 2014, we have actually awarded the award 4 more times. So there were 2 in 2019, and then 1 in 2016, and 1 in 2023. So the award has continued, but not necessarily on that annual cycle as it had been.
So for our listeners who might not have been familiar with the Peace Colloquy or even that we've had this type of event, what kinds of things in the past have we given the award for?
That is such a good question because we've covered such a wide variety of topics and all of them are important to this work of peace, right? Because the peace that we are after is shalom, which is an all-encompassing whole life effort towards right relationships with ourselves, with others, with the planet, and with God. And so the Peace Award recipients have been honored for numerous things. We've had some that were based around environmental issues, like Bill McKibben, who's our award recipient this time. That has happened in the past as well, like when we awarded Dr. Jane Goodall the Peace Award. But we've also had people who work on restorative justice efforts, like somebody who's known as kind of the father of restorative justice, Howard Zier. We've awarded hymn writers and people who support communities that experience extreme poverty. So the spectrum that the Peace Award covers is pretty broad, and we've had the chance to not only honor a diversity of peacemakers, but also learn from them about the things that we can be doing to help build peace.
That's wonderful. And I really appreciate your acknowledgement of our understanding of peace as the shalom being something more than that just has such a broad perspective. You know, it encompasses so many ways of looking at peace and holistic relationships and that kind of thing. Because often, I think, especially in today's world, peace is the absence of war. We talk about that a lot. I know over the years we've talked about that a lot. So continuing to remember that and to see these different ways of looking at peace is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to this year, and we're going to be talking about seeds of hope, right?
Seeds of peace. You're very close.
Here we are talking about peace. Sorry about that. Yeah, seeds of peace. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our theme this year is Seeds of Peace, Environmental Justice and Action. And so we are talking about those things we do, the things that we plant that can help us grow peace in the world. Our award recipient is an environmental author and activist, and his name is Bill McKibben. And Bill McKibben is, I'm just so excited to host him. It's going to be wonderful to have him here. He is kind of considered one of the first voices for general audiences on the climate crisis. So a long time ago, he wrote the book, The End of Nature, and it was the first time that the climate conversation really came to the general public. So he kind of got the ball rolling on that. In his most recent text called Here Comes the Sun, he acknowledges where we are this many decades, probably 3 or 4 decades after his first book. He acknowledges where we are in this situation, and he acknowledges that we maybe didn't make the changes that we needed to. But he does it in this really hopeful and positive way where he says there's still stuff we can do. There's still work that can be done to help bring peace for the environment. And so he offers us a positive way to engage and to make meaningful action. In addition to his writing, Bill is also the co-founder of 350.org, which the 350 number is like a scientific term that I don't 100% understand, but it has to do with like the parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere or something like that. But 350.org has helped to drive global climate campaigns. McKibben has also opposed oil pipelines and advanced fossil fuel divestment. So he does a lot of this writing to share the information with us, but then he's also actively engaged in a lot of the on the ground work of climate justice. And so I'm really excited to learn from him. I think it's a wonderful choice to honor him with the Peace Award. And I'm looking forward to how we will all get to experience him at the event.
Yep, that's wonderful. I can't help but think, because of, again, my travels around the church even recently, and knowing that this whole idea of climate crisis is an ongoing debate, even within the church, and a church like ours who believes in the sacredness of creation. Um, I wonder, and I didn't prep you for this, so I'm just gonna, what might we say, and I won't say what would you say, what might we say to those who are climate crisis deniers that would encourage them to simply come and listen and hear what Bill is doing and has done, and kind of pick up from his experience and his own personal story?
Yeah. So I think I would approach this in a number of ways. If I was for sure talking to somebody who is in community of Christ, I would remind them of our principle of faithful disagreement. And sometimes I think that when we talk about faithful disagreement, we've kind of started to use it as an excuse to not engage. We just say, I disagree with that issue or that topic. I won't say anything about it from behind the pulpit, but I'm also not going to be swayed on it. I'm just not going to engage. The reality of faithful disagreement is that it's a wonderful opportunity for us to have a difference of opinion with someone and then to engage in the work of community, which is to be formed by that community, to listen as stories are shared and as factual information is presented, and to allow ourselves to remain open to be shaped and transformed by that communal experience. And so if it was a member of Community of Christ, I would invite them to really hold tight to that idea of faithful disagreement, but not how it's always lived out, instead how it's intended to be lived out, which is this way to engage in community. In a more general sense, I think that I would just kind of challenge the person to approach the topic with wonder, and also to set aside any, predetermined defensiveness based on party lines or other loyalties. I would invite them to set those aside and to instead pick up wonder and just approach the whole conversation with the question, but what if this is all true? So whether you believe that the climate is changing, which statistically we know that it is, people have some difference of opinion on what is causing that change, but it's more and more likely, more scientists are coming to agreement that it is caused by humans. And so I would just invite those people who are still struggling with that to ask, but what if this is true? Because Let's say it's not humans that are causing this issue. Does it cause any harm for us to approach our lives in ways that care for creation? No. And if it is true that humans are impacting the climate, it does cause harm if we do absolutely nothing. And so I would just invite people to approach this with wonder and to, just believe for the moment that this is all true and see how it might shape their lives and change the way they interact with creation, with God's creation.
Thanks, Joelle. I really like that connection to pausing to wonder and live in that wonder. Because I'm guilty. I mean, I think we all are. We get to a point of feeling very strongly or having an opinion about something and assuming that the other side is just trying to convince us. They just want to get us
Mhm.
here and get us in a controlled environment and sway. But I think as a community of Christ,
Mhm.
especially where we are attempting at all times to come to places of common consent
Mhm.
and understanding, mutual understanding, and taking advantage of the diversity that we have in our community is so
Mhm.
important for us to be able to come to the table
Mhm.
and listen. So I hope our listeners, whether they be Community of Christ members or otherwise, would hear that
Mhm.
because I think that stretches beyond even the Peace Forum and this
Mhm.
particular issue. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Just one other thing on that, because you mentioned common consent, and I should have included this in my response as well. As a faith body at World Conference, we declared a climate emergency. So that doesn't mean that 100% of the people present voted in support of that. But what it does mean is that the majority of our body came together after listening to, some of it was science based, but also the stories of our brothers and sisters outside of the United States, our siblings outside of the United States who are dealing with the impacts of climate change. We heard their cries and we declared a climate emergency. So even if this is something that someone is personally struggling with, the body as a whole came to some consent around the need for us to take on these issues and the need for us to do it urgently. So I'm really glad you mentioned common consent. That's so important.
It really is. I think it's a really important cornerstone or at least foundational piece to who we are and how
Mhm.
we try to live together in community.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and when we're dealing with issues like this and all of the things that come before us as a body, and even in our engagement outside of the body, it's
Mhm.
important to remember that. So
Mhm.
it's important. I appreciate you reminding us that we did as a body come to some common consent about this and declare that
Mhm.
climate crisis. So
Mhm.
anyway, I'm always one looking for inclusion, and I know that there are people out there with dissenting voices and dissenting opinions, and I just hope that that won't keep anyone from coming to
Mhm.
hear another perspective, and that goes for everybody. But like
Mhm.
you said, I think there is growing statistics and information and stories from real people in real places who are experiencing the
Mhm.
effects of climate change. And it's so important for us to hear those, no matter what you believe. And I
Mhm.
love that you said, if we come and even if we say there is no climate crisis, but we still believe in the environment, and what can we
Mhm.
do to make this place safer for our children and our grandchildren, et
Mhm.
cetera. So there's so many aspects. It's the issue, which is obviously critical,
Mhm.
um, uh, but it affects so many things. And
Mhm.
we can really say that with a lot of things, that if we just do good for the environment, what would it hurt?
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
What we will only be better off. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yep.
I don't want to. I could stay on that forever because I don't understand sometimes. Just being honest,
Mhm.
sometimes I don't
Mhm.
understand how people can see what's happening and not want to learn more or to find
Mhm.
ways to make a difference. So
Yep. Yep.
I have the wonder of getting to travel to some beautiful places just here in the United States. And, when I see trash on the ground and
Hmm.
just little things, and I think, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
I I can't even imagine throwing trash out the window, and yet I see it happen, and I'm like, what
Yep.
what
Yep.
is going through their mind, right? So anyway,
Hmm.
all right,
Yep.
enough of my soapbox. Enough of my soapbox. Let's get back to the Peace Forum. So we've talked a little bit about the International Peace Award. There's
Hmm.
also going to be Human Rights Awards given
Yes.
at this forum, correct?
Yes, yeah. So the Human Rights Award recipient names were actually announced at World Conference because traditionally the awards have been awarded there. But going forward, the awards are going to be awarded at Peace Forum. So the names that I'm going to mention probably will sound familiar to you because you heard them at World Conference. But our two recipients this time around are Randy Cross March, who is the founder of Hand in Hand, and the work that she does combats the stigma of AIDS and gender-based violence. And then the Munson family, who lead the Chattanooga Community of Christ Urban Ministry and have done so for 20 years. And they create a safe haven for those escaping poverty and crime in central Chattanooga. So the Human Rights Award is one where the human rights team receives nominations and then, in conjunction with the First Presidency, chooses the recipients of those awards. And any member or friend of Community of Christ or its affiliated organizations can be nominated. And so this is why, as you look through past recipient names, you might know some of those folks because they are members or friends of Community of Christ. And again, this used to be one that was awarded at World Conference, but going forward, it's just going to be a wonderful weekend where we get to honor award recipients for both the International Peace Award and the Human Rights Award. So I'm really looking forward to that being added this year.
Yeah, I when I think of Randy and what she does, I had the pleasure of getting to know her a little bit when I was serving the church in
Mm-hmm.
Ohio, and just so quiet
Mm-hmm.
in presence and knowing the things that she does and that she's passionate about. And a lot of times we don't know the depth
Mm-hmm.
of the things that people are doing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Chattanooga is a little bit more talked about, in the
Mm-hmm.
church, so
Mm-hmm.
people might be more familiar with that, which is, but
Mm-hmm.
although when I think of it, I think 20 years, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Mm-hmm.
to do the depth of work that they're doing there in Chattanooga and to continue that for 20 years
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is at the level which increases at all
Mm-hmm.
times what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited that we're getting the opportunity to honor those folks,
Mm-hmm.
just because again they tend to go unnoticed, and I am always amazed at how much good is taking place by members of our community. And we
Mm-hmm.
honor folks from outside the community, and then there are these quiet ways that things are taking place. So those are
Yep.
really exciting that both of those groups are, well, Randy and the Chattanooga group are within the church and
Mm-hmm.
doing great things.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
how are the recipients chosen for these awards?
Yeah, so it's a little bit harder for me to speak to the Human Rights Award because I don't sit on that team. I can say that there is a nomination form on the website. It's currently closed because they're not considering people yet, but it will open up and then anybody can put forward a nomination for somebody to receive the Human Rights Award. And then that team consults and looks over the nominations and decides how to how to award that for that specific year. As far as the International Peace Award, I've sat through one cycle of this being decided on the World Church Peace and Justice team. And so I know a little bit more about this. It's a very similar process to what I just described with the human rights team, but we have a list of nominees. These are outside of the church. And we, look through those nominees and what their focus is. We try to make sure that it's something that has a global impact, or at the very least is happening in a specific region, but kind of creates waves throughout the world. And so then we identify that person, we present it to the First Presidency, And that is how that one is decided.
That's great. I was just wondering, as I was thinking about the website for the Peace Forum, and we'll, of
Mm-hmm.
course, include the link to the Peace
Mm-hmm.
Forum in the show notes, but real easy. One of the things I love about the Community of Christ site, if you know generally what you're looking for,
Oh.
the URLs are pretty intuitive. So
Mm-hmm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
seaofchrist.org/peace-forum.
Yep,
Nice and
you
easy.
got it. You
Nice
got
and
it.
easy, right? And they can go, anybody who's interested can go there and read about the recipients, read
Mm-hmm.
about registration, the schedule, anything specific that you would add about that, what might be available on the website?
Yeah. So as you said, this is like the place to go for any and all information. We continuously are updating it. So when it first started, it was like the countdown and registration coming soon. And since that time, multiple pages have been added. The communications team does a really good job of keeping things up to date. At this point, you can even go and see what our breakout sessions are. We're still waiting on just a couple of confirmations, but most of them are up there, as well as who will be presenting them and kind of some details about what they might be presenting. You can learn about the award recipients. You can see the schedule of the event as it currently stands. You get some information about visiting Independence and possible places to stay. And then there's a whole section on things that you can do to prepare. And so I would love to share just a bit about some of those things, if that's okay, so that folks know what to do as they get ready
A-
for October 16th.
Absolutely. That was my next question. So
Oh,
it's a great
perfect.
segue.
Perfect. So the first thing I will say is register, 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 register. I know that it can be difficult to know your schedule and to know for sure that you're going to be able to come. But the sooner you register, the better it will be for you. And I'll tell you why. First of all, we are going to be having a Friday prayer retreat, which is something that has been a part of Peace Colloquies in the past, but we are going to have to cap the number of participants in that. So when you register for the event, if you're registering as an in-person attendee, you will have the option to add that on to your registration. But we can only accept a certain number. So you want to be one of the first to register so that you make sure if you're wanting to attend that event, you're able to. But another thing we're doing this year is including a t-shirt with registration. So if you want to make sure that you get the size t-shirt you want, the sooner you register, the better you have, the better guarantee you have of getting that shirt size. There are also additional add-ons like a coffee mug that you can add on. And again, if you're going to add that on at the time of your registration, it'll need to be sooner rather than later. So early bird registration has been open since the middle of April, and it will remain open until September 1st. As part of early bird registration, you it's kind of done on like a generosity based model. So we give you about the cost that it is to attend the event, but then we allow you to decide if you want to contribute that full amount or maybe more than that amount, or if you're able to do, just a base $25, whatever that looks like for you, you're free to do. After the September 1st deadline, that might look slightly different. So you're going to want to get in early so that you are able to make that decision for yourself. So registration is one really important thing when it comes to preparation. And I have some more registration information to share, but I'll get to that a little bit later in this episode. The next thing that you'll find is a whole section titled preparation. So there are a few things that we are inviting people to do to prepare. So at World Conference, we launched the book Pursuing Peace, 365 Prayers for a More Peaceful World. And we are inviting people, and have been since last October 16th, to work through this daily devotional, to say these prayers, to really be formed in that concept of following the peaceful one in preparation for the Peace Forum. We also have some fun ways to prepare, like the coloring sheets that you can download from the website. Whether you want to do this with a Sunday school class you're teaching, or Blake was mentioning he's in charge of the youth class next week at the reunion that he will be attending. And so if he wants to print these off, that's great. Or if you're an adult who loves to color, this is a really good way to practice mindful coloring and kind of reflect on the theme of the event. And then finally, in the preparation section, you will find information about creative reuse donations. So I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if I'm talking a little faster, if I'm talking a little higher, but this is something that I'm really excited about at Peace Forum this year. So this is something that we haven't done before. I don't think we've done anything like it before, and I'm really excited about it. So Creative Reuse Center is part of this global movement that said, we're tired of throwing things in landfills. We're tired of buying new products when, somebody down the street might have half a bottle of paint that would have worked for our product, and I was only going to use a quarter of a bottle of paint anyway. So a Creative Reuse Center collects all kinds of creative materials, whether it be arts and craft supplies or leftover things from a home repair project or toilet paper rolls and cereal boxes that you held on to. So it collects all those types of things and has them available for people to come and sort through and collect the various items that they think they could use for products. And so a lot of teachers will use this, a lot of artists will use this, and a lot of just like everyday crafters like me use creative reuse centers. So at the Peace Forum, we are going to have a creative reuse pop-up, which means for that weekend only, we will have a store in the temple where people can come and look through all of these materials. We're going to be inviting local teachers to come and get what they need, and local artists to come and see what's available for them. And a creative reuse center is really wonderful because it helps us uphold some of our values. We're able to uphold the sacredness of creation by not putting things in landfills and by reusing instead of buying new. And it also allows us to uphold the worth of all people by modeling an economy that works for everyone, because this is done on a pay what you can basis. So people come in, they fill up a paper bag, and they say, I'm able to give $2 to cover what's in this bag. And that's what it is. That's great. If they're not able to pay anything, that's fine. If they want to give a little extra, that's great too. So it models this economy that works for everybody. So I'm telling you all of this because if this is going to work, if this is going to be successful, which I think it will, we need listener help. We need donations. So if you're somebody who lives in the area, or if you're planning on traveling to the event, either by car or with a really big suitcase, and you want to bring donations for the Creative Reuse Center, we would absolutely love to receive them. So under the preparation section, there's a button under Creative Reuse that says donate and learn more. And at that link, you can find a list of the things we can accept and the things that we cannot accept. And you can look around your house and find what you're able to donate. So in my house, I have a box that just sits empty, and I dump things in it, for a week at a time. And then I bring them to the temple every week or so and load those into the Creative Reuse Center. So whatever donations you're able to bring are wonderful, and we just really appreciate it.
So, two things. First of all, my wife just told me she found one of those here in the Chicagoland area and loved it. She said it was so cool because I think she came away with a little Ziploc bag of paper clips and one of safety pins. I mean, just because you buy and you need a couple and you've got a bunch left over, I thought that was the coolest idea. So I am so excited to see what we're able to do at the Peace Forum. That is so cool. I said two things, but three things. Two things. First of all, thank you for not calling the coloring page a youth coloring page, because I love coloring. And so yes, it is very calming and brings back my days in art class in high school. So, so that's really cool. And the last thing, just in terms of what your comments were, listeners, you can't see Joelle's face. It's not just lighting up talking about the creative reuse donations. The whole event, if you could see the excitement that is on her face, and I'm sure you can hear it in her voice, but what incredible enthusiasm backing up this event makes me want to go. As a matter of fact, right before we began our conversation, I checked because I thought that I had already registered, and I have not. So I hope you'll join me after you've listened to this episode. If you haven't registered, to go online at seeofchrist.org/peace-forum, and you'll find all the information you need and register. Get registered. This is going to be an incredible event and an opportunity to be together. I think I'm probably I'm very excited to hear what Bill has to say and to be a part of that. But I just love this idea of the creative reuse donation centers too. I mean, I can't wait to go over there. I've been on the road traveling, so I haven't been yet. But it's a neat idea and what a great opportunity. And if you're not going to the Peace Forum, but you know someone who is, send your donations that way. That's so cool. So cool. Neat idea. Well, Joelle, is there, anything else that we ought to talk about so that our listeners can hear and be ready and get excited about this that I haven't asked maybe?
Well, I think that just a little bit more information about registration might be helpful because we want people to attend in the way that they are able. And we know that not everybody is going to be able to come to Independence for the event, and your participation is still important. We also know that not everybody is somebody over 18 participating, and your participation is still important. So I want to just let you know that there are 6 different ways to register. They're all under the registration section of the webpage. The first is the adult in person, which is, kind of what we've been talking about already. Just you're going to be there for the full weekend. You're planning on maybe adding a box lunch on Saturday. That's an option. You're planning on maybe adding a mug. So all of that is on your registration form, all of those choices. But then we have 3 separate in-person children and youth registration. So the first will be childcare, which is 6 months to pre-K. And these littles will be all together in one room throughout the event. So you'll drop them off before you head to breakout sessions and pick them up for meals. But we do have childcare available so that parents are able to go to the sessions without having to worry about managing the really young ones. But for the kids and youth, so grades kindergarten all the way up through their senior year, which is going to be about ages 6 all the way up through 18, somewhere in that range, these kiddos are going to be participating in the main event with us. And so they will have some youth leaders that go around with them. Parents can drop their kids off with these children and youth leaders, but then we will see them at some of the breakout sessions that we're at. We didn't want a parallel event that they were attending. We wanted their voice to be embedded in the larger conversation. So for each breakout session time frame, there will be a specific session that was created with children and youth in mind. And adults are welcome to come to that one, but that is the one that our young people will be attending. The high school age will get to kind of choose which breakout session they want to go to, but the elementary and middle school will be going to this one that was created with them in mind. If you are somebody that falls in those age ranges, there also might be some additional offerings for you at Peace Forum. So you want to make sure to get registered quickly. For example, the youth, so those high school age folks will be able to stay overnight at the nearby Family Life Center. So it's just a couple blocks from the temple. And they will have kind of, opportunities to engage with other youth from across the United States for sure, and maybe even across the world. We're not sure if we're going to get any international youth participants, but there is that possibility. So they'll have campfires and ice cream parties, and they'll even have a special lunch with Bill McKibben and some World Church leaders. So make sure if you're attending in person and you fall in that age range to get registered so you get more information about that. The final 2 ways for registering are both online participants. So the first is for an individual. If I was going to attend from my home and I, wanted to have access to the breakout sessions and wanted to be able to listen to the plenary session, I would register as an individual joining online. $10 for those participants. They will have access to all of the breakout sessions. They will get to choose which ones they want to attend. And they will, if they join one and then they change their mind midway through, just like you could stand up in person and go to a different one, you'll be able to leave that room and join another room. So if you're an individual who wants to participate remotely, that's how you'd sign up. The final way to attend is groups and congregations that are attending online. So if you have maybe a mission center group that wants to get together all in the same location, or a congregation that isn't able to travel but still wants to attend the event with others, this is the best option for you. So if you have at least 5 people or more, this is the way to go, is to register as a group or a congregation. I know that there are already a couple of groups planning to host sites in Canada, and I'm sure that that will be true in other parts of the world as well. If this is you, though, you only need to register if you are the site host. So if Blake was hosting a group at his congregation and I was going to attend that group, Blake would register, but I would not. So the host of the site is the only one that needs to register for that. So again, all of these are under registration on the website. We want you to participate, whether that's in person or online. You make our event more complete. And so your participation is not only important, it's necessary. And so we really hope, as Blake said, that a lot of people after listening to this episode will go and register and help make our event all that it can be.
I'm speechless. Is there anything that you guys have not thought about? Oh my gosh.
I'm sure there is, and that's what's scary.
This is an incredibly inclusive event. I mean, so many ways to participate. That is so exciting, and acknowledging that the world is different and you don't, everybody may not be able to make the trip, but there's no excuse not to be able to participate. It doesn't sound like, at least. Gosh, thanks, Joelle, for all that work for you. And I hope a team. I mean, I know that you are amazing, but I hope you have a team helping you with this, because this is insane and wonderful.
I have a wonderful team, and so many people that are just, jumping in and willing to help in so many ways. I have so much gratitude for all of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, gosh, listeners, I hope that you are catching some of the excitement and enthusiasm for this event and will share this information. I can't imagine that there might be a question that is not covered on the website, but Joelle, I'm going to ask, if I'm on the website and I'm looking for something and I just can't find the answer, what should I do?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I believe that there should be an email on the website, but it might not come up for you until after you register. So if you don't find the email because you haven't registered, it's something like peaceforum@seaofchrist.org or something like that. But don't email that, guys, because I don't know that it's for real. But you can email me at jowight@seaofchrist.org. And make sure you do JO, otherwise you'll email my dad, but it's okay. He'll forward it to me.
They're pretty close. It'll probably get that way, but could save you a step. Well, gosh, I'm really excited, and I hope that everybody else is excited. Thank you, Joelle, so much for, first of all, for all you're doing to make this happen and leading that team and moving us forward in this endeavor with the Peace Forum. So thank you for that, and thank you for being here today to help us understand and get a little more information for the forum.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me share. As you said, I'm so excited about it. I can't wait till October 16th, and I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody, whether they're online, or in person.
Well, it's really, really exciting. So everybody gear up for October 16 to 18 in Independence for the 2026 Peace Forum, and go online to register. We'll have all that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us here at Grounds for Peace and Faith Unfiltered. It's always a pleasure when you spend time, which we know is limited for everyone. Everybody's busy, so we're honored that you took time to spend time with us today, and we hope to see you at the Peace Forum. You guys take care. Go and make the world a better place.